Welcome back to the show, Recommended Daily Dose. Today's episode is going to be different. We actually were the guest on someone else's show, go figure.
Apparently, people actually care what we have to say.
Apparently.
Who knew?
So we were the guest on the SecretScope podcast with Dr. Samantha Gelman and Dr. Adelynn Vadrar. They actually asked us our opinion on some of the hottest healthcare topics.
Mostly my opinion, but either way, we hope you guys enjoy.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the SecretScope, brought to you by your favorite MD duo, Dr. Samantha Gelman and Dr. Adelynn Vadrar, where we are here to bring you your weekly dose of beauty, health, and wellness secrets.
I mean, you can quote me. Vaccines are the single most important invention in the 20th century, or in modern medicine, really, in terms of saving lives, in terms of the number of lives saved. So there is nothing else out there that we've ever offered patients that have saved as many lives.
Hey everyone, and welcome back to the final episode of 2019 on the SecretScope. This year has been so crazy for Dr. Samantha and I. We started this podcast this year, and to watch it grow, everything that has happened, all of our guests that have joined us, and all our fun episodes on various health, medical, beauty topics has been so exciting and fun. And we're so grateful to have all of you listeners who we can teach. We appreciate all of you, and we want to thank you all from the bottom of our heart for supporting us, and for, if it wasn't for you guys, we wouldn't be doing this. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So for our final episode of 2019, it's really exciting because we sit down with two other physicians, and you might know us to be your favorite MD female duo, but they are your favorite MD male duo. And both of them are hosts of Recommended Daily Dose, which is a fun medical podcast that is by two physicians with a unique spin on what's making headlines in the healthcare. So that's exactly what this episode is. We interview them on all the top medical headlines in healthcare today, and basically get a feel about their experience in it, their views, their opinions. So it's really great to hear another physician's opinion. So we have Dr. Clinton Coleman and Dr. Suraj Saggar on our show today. Dr. Clinton Coleman is a nephrologist, and he's an expert in kidney failure, hypertension, anemia, diabetes, high cholesterol, and kidney stones. He's a member of the Holy Name Medical Partners and received his medical degree from UMDNJ New Jersey Medical School. Then he completed his internal medicine residency at St. Luke's Roosevelt Hospital Center and his nephrology fellowship at Lenox Hill Hospital, both in New York City. So then there's his co-host, Dr. Saggar, who is an infectious disease doctor. He treats the common flu, chickenpox, shingles, tuberculosis. So basically all the bacterial and viral diseases, you name it, he knows how to treat it. He's been a staff of Holy Name since 2007. He is also an associate professor at Touro College of Osteopathic Medicine here in New York City. He earned his osteopathic medical degree at Philadelphia College of Osteopathic Medicine. He then went on to complete his internal medicine residency and fellowship in infectious disease at St. Michael's Medical Center in New Jersey. Also, he participates in numerous clinical trials and has conducted clinical research at the National Institute of Health as a Merrick Research Fellow, which is amazing. You can find both of them on Fox 5 News at 5 p.m., where both of them deliver the top medical headlines and discuss up-to-the-minute health information, exciting research findings, the latest advances in healthcare screenings, and medical technology. So make sure to check that out. Continue listening because this episode is really great to hear from experienced physicians on their views on certain medical topics.
So welcome back to the SecretScope, and with us this week we have two special guests. Guys, introduce yourselves.
So I am Dr. Suraj Saggar, infectious disease, and my co-host here,
Dr. Clinton Coleman. I'm nephrology and internal medicine, and we both are the hosts of Recommended Daily Dose, which is a podcast which I think we are actually people's favorite MD duo. I know people say that you
the male MD duo.
That's right.
I took offense to that, but thanks for having us.
Yeah, we're glad to be here.
Yeah, we're glad to have you guys on the show. So this week we're going to talk about a little bit about you guys, kind of about what got you interested in infectious disease and nephrology, a little bit about your journey so people could know, and then talk about some hot topics right now in the news that everyone's raving about for the past year, or maybe longer, honestly.
Awesome.
That sounds excellent. Let's do it.
Okay, so who wants to start first? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, the older first. Yeah.
Oh, it's older. Oh, sorry, you went
Older.
the better looking one. All right. So yeah, internal medicine and infectious disease. Why I did it, I won't bore you with the details, but if you think about it, like looking at, sodium and kidney stuff all day long is really boring. ID kind of, like encompasses, right, everything in medicine. So I just find that the data, the subject just fascinating. So I've had I think a pretty good career so far. And
you can't see me, but I'm laughing.
He is laughing. He's laughing.
So he's the petri dish pimp. This guy. So he's the
petri dish pimp.
Yeah,
All right,
the king of hand washing.
Yeah, I'm also more the brains, the operation, I guess, and the looks. What do you do? What do you?
Self-proclaimed.
Yeah. Well, like I'm a numbers guy, so I like the science and the physiology, and I don't look like a dork, but I'm kind of a dork. So that's why the nephrology was really enticing to me. Also because, it's not just one aspect of medicine. Usually nephrology, there's the endocrine part of it with diabetes, the rheumatologic part of it. There's a bunch of overlap with different specialties. So, that's where we are now. We're practicing at Holy Name Medical Center in Teaneck, New Jersey.
Yeah, we keep it kind of fresh, do a lot of different things. Podcasting is something we started only last year, but it's been a great creative outlet. I think we're a little ahead of you guys in the medical career field, but it gets taxing, So I think having a venue where you can disseminate information, it's creative, it's fun. We learn. We have guests on. We do sometimes just shows with ourselves, but amongst ourselves, but it's a lot of fun. We got into media a couple years ago. We're both regular medical contributors in Fox News here in New York City. So I think you were on TV, yesterday? Wednesday.
Yeah, Wednesday.
And I was there on Monday. And, it used to be fun. Like my kid would.
It's still fun.
It's fun, but, it's not a big deal anymore. Like my dad's like, my kid was like, oh, my dad's on TV. And now I'm like, did you see Dad? He's like, nah, what's a big deal? He doesn't.
No longer paying attention.
No, I took him in the studio and he used to think it was a big deal seeing me on TV. And then I take him in now and he's
you
just.
met Ernie and Nastis, all that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. But it has been fun. It is also, I think, a combination of just preventing burnout, which is a big thing among physicians, as you know or will know. So just keeping it fresh and keeping different avenues and venues to really keep engaged and just keep going until we retire at some point, right?
So yeah, I'm going to interrupt, but so that was our self-motivated interest. But I think part of it was probably our frustration with the way medical information is distributed, right? So you guys are like on the forefront of giving, interesting health topics, but that's a rarity. So when you're watching news or TV shows or other podcasts, it's such boring information. So it's not dynamic. And I think as media changes, doctors really haven't caught up with that. So, I cannot listen to someone talk about, preventive screening because the way they deliver, it's such a boring thing. So I think our goal was...
It's like when you do consults.
Right, exactly.
100%. Yeah.
Our goal was to provide like the same information, but in an entertaining way, right? But still a professional way, so people could actually, use it instead of just tuning people off. So I think
so we make jokes and we make it light, but at the same time, we always we can't.
We're normal people.
We can't make it too light, but we try to find that balance, and then hopefully people enjoy what we do.
Yeah, we're the same way. We also we want to joke, but then as professionals, we have to, take it back and limit ourselves to some things.
Yeah, the good thing is what we usually do is we just kind of make fun of each other and it kind of works out.
Yeah. And for patients, it's good too because they feel comfortable. Everyone always associates going to the doctor as like this scary thing. If you make your patients feel comfortable, they're more likely to come back, more likely to take care of themselves. And today we're in this environment that you got to be doing that.
Now, we talked a lot about physicians and patients have to connect, right? So patients want to see people perhaps who look like them, who understand them, aren't talking down to them, who can kind of come to their level. So both of us coming from ethnic and minority backgrounds, I think we feel we can, and it's important for anyone really, whatever your background might be, but to be able to relate to people from all different walks of life I mean, outside New York City, obviously we have people from all different ethnicities and cultural groups and religions. And so you have to be able to, provide, as they say, culturally competent care. And we talk about a lot of it in the show.
And I think
we're first generation Americans, so we know all about that too.
No, all right.
And I think my best patient-doctor relations are ones with, like, I have a friendship with the patients, right? So I feel like, and I think that relates to your family and friends. So my family and friends, they always ask me medical questions. So I think, patients want to be able to ask someone that's normal something, as complicated or scary as medicine. So I think that's our shtick, for lack of a better term.
Do you consider me a friend, bro?
No, not really.
I didn't think so. Oh, okay. Well, I'm still hoping to be his friend one day, but hopefully I can be friends with you guys. You said first generation American. So what is your guys' background?
We're both Ukrainian, so both of our families.
Were you in the Ukrainian Scouts, or is that only for Ukrainian kids? Because we have a couple of Ukrainian colleagues and their kids. Always talking about the Ukrainian Scouts, right?
Is there? I don't know.
Yeah, Gorlov, and he's always talking about his kids in the Ukrainian Scouts. But that's actually a decent sized Ukrainian population in our area.
It's in Jersey.
In Jersey, right?
We're everywhere. Yeah.
I'm not going to ask you how you feel about the president then. So we'll
it's very split. It's very split.
Really?
Some people love the president and some people hate the president.
Oh.
Yeah, so we won't comment on that further.
No comment. Wait, so how did both of you meet?
Well, it was...
we met online. No, I'm just joking.
I was at one end of the hall. He was at the other end of the hall. We made eye contact.
The music started.
And then you fell in love.
Yeah. And it was like, hey, why don't we just talk and record ourselves?
Actually, is that what it was?
No, it was probably something boring.
It was. I think we probably met in the hospital rounding, and he was. You were in another group before you went on to your own private practice.
Yeah.
And I've been in private practice my whole career, but we just became friends. And honestly, I would say probably the biggest connection was starting to do media locally, and then as that grew, and I have to admit, it was all Clinton's idea. He said, "Look, we should try podcasting," and we tried a couple on our own. Weren't sure what to do with it.
What'd you say about podcasting, though?
What did I say? I don't remember.
You said podcasting is like everyone's got one.
Okay. I may have said
so he wasn't really.
I admit it. I would. He made me see the light. It's true. I say it's like blank. Everyone's got one. But we said no. That may be true, but let's do it in our own style. And we actually brought it up to the hospital that we both are strongly affiliated with, and they were very receptive. So we have a very nice team, marketing and the audiovisual guys and the technology guys, and they're awesome actually, and have been instrumental in us, continuing this, and it's been great. Now you guys are doing completely on your own, right? You have no other, are you using other support networks, or this is something you guys are totally started on your own and just running with on your own?
Yeah, we're just started and just going with the flow.
Seeing
where it takes us, trial and error.
Because for us, we still have residency and all that, so we're kind of like playing around with it so that eventually it starts going better.
No, so we don't want to age ourselves, but we obviously are ahead of you guys career-wise. But I think it's important to have on the other end, you might have med students who are podcasting, which is important, but then people going into residency or as residents, some of the obvious, some things are similar, but some of the concerns or topics that your audience may find interesting are slightly different than ours. So I think it's great to have that at all different, levels of medicine as we go along our journey. Because I'll tell you, it goes by quick. So I had more hair.
You had an afro.
I had dreadlocks actually back in the day. Yeah, back in the day.
It always looks like a race.
Don't race start so early. We're only like 6 minutes in this podcast. No, sorry. So yes, residency is stressful. The only thing more stressful is the next 35 years of your career. So
exactly. So you want to make sure what you're doing you love. So it's nice to see people who love their specialties. But yeah, today we live in a world where you kind of got to be a little bit of everywhere in order to be successful. So that's really important.
Right, and as old men, I guess old guys,
let's speak for yourself.
We like to encourage you guys to be as well balanced as you are, right? So a lot of the burnout you see is from people trying to fit the square peg in the hole, or this hole in this. What has it go? How's the expression?
I think what you're trying to say is you need to have hobbies. For me, I like to run, I like to work out.
And Lululemon.
And Lululemon men's.
Lululemon. We love Lululemon.
This guy, he loves jazzercise. He loves, what else?
They don't know jazzercise.
You like working out in the pool.
Working out in the pool.
He floats, he puts his floaties on and does some weights, but you need to have other hobbies, and we see it all the time.
Right. You can't just see patients all day and expect the same quality of life that people had 15, 20 years ago.
Before,
It
yeah.
doesn't work like that. So
Because you have to do so much more
exactly.
to with all the insurance things and
And
the
it's not just
payments.
seeing patients, it's like the paperwork and
EMRs,
all that other stuff that goes along with
The
it.
EMR will be the death of all of us, guys.
100%.
Right.
Yeah, so we do other stuff within medicine. I mean, we have some clinical research stuff we do. We teach medical students actually a live administrative stuff, which is education of itself. So there's a lot of things you need to do within medicine, so not just seeing patients, not just clinical work, which makes kind of more balanced physician. And then you definitely got to do stuff outside of medicine, man. So whether you do exercise, whether I'm running all day long or playing tennis, whatever you guys do, you got to stay with in it to win it. As I say.
I think you need a new bit though.
I need a new bit.
Jazzercise. Do you know what jazzercising is?
No, because you're the only person who does it. It's basically he dances and he does this jazz dance as a workout. It's very odd. We actually have video.
I was look at in my head, but it didn't make sense.
Since you want to be a
comedian,
a smart guy, we actually one of our episodes we went to work out with this famous trainer. He used to work with Sopranos, but he does a lot of the athletes in the area. So we actually did one of his workouts, and it was pretty intense. Yes.
Yeah, he kicked my ass. I'll admit it.
Right. So
whatever, but it's fun. You guys get to do cool things all the time, and it's fun to keep yourself afloat.
We met Miss. What else? We met Miss New Jersey, who is now going to medical school. We met a fourth-year med student who is going trying for the Olympics for fencing. Believe it or not. So we met a lot of interesting people, right? We met cool. Very inspirational people, athletes, some New York Giants who are very funny and very entertaining and have great stories. So definitely this has provided us an avenue to do stuff we wouldn't normally get to do. And talk to you guys.
Yeah, for sure. That's true. We're very happy to have you guys on this episode too.
But I suspect you just don't want to talk about us the whole time. There must be something else we can provide here.
So we wanted to talk a little bit about the hot topics that are out right now and your thoughts on them. You guys obviously have a little more experience than us in the medical field, and you're both specialists, so you could delve into it further. So let's talk a little bit about vaping.
Oh, I can.
You vape, right?
I do not vape. Actually, I'll put my serious hat on for a minute. And I'll tell you why. I like to have fun. We both like to have fun, but
here's a Debbie Downer.
Here's a Debbie Downer moment coming. We've seen several cases already, and I have as well, of EVALI, which stands for e-cigarette vaping acute lung injury. So you're talking about ARDS, acute lung injury, and it has been we have not had here, but we've had several deaths in New Jersey, very young. And the crazy thing is, it's not like when you smoke and you say, well, I'll smoke a little bit then stop and I will mitigate my risk for cancer. You can just vape once. You can vape, never, and vape multiple times, or just vape once, or just vape once in your life. But you never know which episode will actually cause a severe lung injury. And the reason I get involved is they come in with cough and fever and infiltrate. So they have stuff on their X-ray or CAT scan or whatever that looks like a pneumonia. And we're giving them antibiotics, so they're not getting better. And then we realize, we start asking some more history. Were you doing this? Were you doing that? And the common denominator is vaping. And, it can progress into patients being intubated, developing something called acute respiratory distress syndrome, or ARDS. There's been episodes of people dying in New Jersey. There's been a case where a young kid required a double lung transplant. So certainly no laughing matter. A lot of the implications have been on the acetone and vitamin E and some of the flavorings of the vaping mechanisms. And what I would say, it's not regulated by the FDA. And a lot of these devices, you're heating up chemicals at super hot temperatures, and it's these hydrocarbons that get released in your lungs that can cause a lot of damage. So my 2 cents, and I think this is something that's echoed by most medical societies, is that no level of vaping is safe until we know more. And I would highly recommend anyone not to vape. And a lot of even pulmonologists, friends of ours, will say, well, we told at one time told them, well, maybe be a safe alternative to smoking if you're trying to quit smoking or whatever. But at this point in time, our recommendation certainly is no level of vaping is safe.
So, and that's his doctor perspective, which most of us share, but just aesthetically, it looks terrible. Like, you ever see someone vaping? It's like this big plume of smoke.
Cloud of smoke.
It's not sexy. And I think the problem is that...
Did you say sexy?
I said sexy,
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
It's more than just that. It's the addiction of it. These kids are really addicted to the amount of nicotine in it. So it's not like cigarettes where, it was you could limit the amount of cigarettes that you smoke, but just the sheer amount of the nicotine or even the cannabinoids that they put in it have led, such a younger population to become addicts of it. And once you do that, it's so hard to undo. So there's the health aspect of it, the short term and long term, but then is there, the psychological aspect, which we really haven't addressed really.
And the crazy thing is they're targeting, middle school kids because these flavors, right? Mango, strawberry, whatever, bubblegum, right? So they're clearly targeting younger population. And like I said, I think it's the idea of it not being regulated by the FDA. That there's such a variability. Some people say I vape all the time and no problems. Other people vape once and come in with this, diffuse infiltrates on x-rays. So this is a huge problem. Now, one thing I will say, New England Journal of Medicine just recently said that incidence of vaping has decreased somewhat in the last few months. But again, this is a global problem. So then they also came out and said, well, now there's huge uptakes in this EVALI or this entity called EVALI in Korea, because now they are finding that the Juul devices and their vaping devices have a lot of vitamin E and acetone and some of these flavorings. So I suspect we're going to see outbreaks of this, globally, because this is a global problem, certainly. So I think any of your listeners out there should, pay attention, should continue to monitor, but I would strongly, strongly recommend holding off any vaping at this time, because we still don't know exactly, even though it's highly suspected, we don't know exactly which chemicals or what's actually implicated in, and also there could be genetic factors of why some people develop problems and don't.
Yeah, and then in terms of the younger generation, I feel like when you're young and you see another kid smoking a cool device, you also want to smoke it. And when you're young, you feel like nothing will ever happen to you.
Right.
You're so ignorant. You don't think that, someone has a lung injury, but I'm not going to get that. So I think as an adult, you're already, you know what's going on in the world. You should set an example for the younger generation, because I think that's the population that is very affected with the Juul.
No, it's true. I think that's
a great point.
That's your life story, right? I think you felt very indestructible as a young guy. I
still would vape though. Look cool, but
I've seen what you wear on the golf course. I don't know about this whole cool business, but all right. So that's kind of our thoughts. I mean, how about in your guys? I mean, how about in residency or what are other medical students? I mean, what are they? Is that what their same ideas are being passed down? Hopefully, in terms of vaping and the dangers associated with it.
Similar idea. We've also had people at the hospitals out here like passing away from these lung injuries from vaping. It seems like it's more linked to basically those who are getting like THC and get the vapes from like the black market.
That's right.
I don't know so much, but now it's like coming out that like with the nicotine also. So that's what I also wanted to cover, that it doesn't matter which one it is, nicotine based or THC based. It's the same thing, because the flavoring is in both. So when those chemicals, like you were saying, when it heats up, it creates another chemical, and that chemical is the one that's dangerous.
Right, exactly.
So I think there's a lot people don't really know, and kind of it was glorified by the media. You saw all these celebrities on social media doing it, so everyone was doing it. Kind of like with cigarettes, how they became popular. Now we know it causes lung cancer, and same thing with this.
And also there was a point in time where we had thought it was a good transition from
quit, right?
Cigarettes.
That's right.
And we learned pretty quickly, but I think, it's really targeted to the kids, which is a shame. But I think a lot of that is changing from a government perspective.
Plus the issues with the vapes is like, you're smoking a cigarette, you're not necessarily smoking one in your house. Vape, you could do it anywhere. You could do it in your shower, in your bed, because it doesn't really leave like a scent.
Right.
Except for that fruity little smell, which could be anything.
Vaping in the shower is crazy.
Yeah, well, you'd be surprised. People do crazy things. I have heard some crazy stories of people in vaping. All right, so that kind of covers that part.
Okay, so let's move on to vaccinations. In terms of all the anti-vaxxers out there and their thoughts on how vaccines what they think can cause autism and what
Oh,
you think about
man.
that. Yes.
I know.
All right, so
All the time people are posting on Facebook all of these links to these stories and
to these BS
yeah.
studies.
Till this day, and this has been like debunked already, and it's till this day people believe in this.
So this is actually my expertise. No, I'm just joking.
I feel like I'm always being serious here.
The
now.
Sultan of Sepsis will speak.
Sultan of Sepsis. That's my new. My nickname really in college was Brown Sugar. For obvious reasons.
Brown sugar.
Yeah. And actually, when I first showed up here, the ICU nurses, I made the mistake of telling them that. And actually, someone today, they're like, "Hey, Sugar,
You're still Brown Sugar."
I'm still Brown. No, they're like, "Hey, Sugar, there's positive blood cultures in this patient." And then there was like my med student was like, "Did she call you Sugar?" I'm like, no.
Results discussed
sorry.
with
Sugar. Sultan of Sepsis is a new one, but you know what? I mean, I could talk for like 5 podcast episodes about this, so
Please don't.
please, I will not. But I will tell you a couple 3 things, as they said in Sopranos. Like, first of all, the anti-vax movement, we know, and hopefully it won't come after us after this show. They have to say they have a strong social media presence is an understatement. They are all over social media with dubious claims and in effect and falsehoods, really, quite frankly. So I tell any patient that walks in my office when we're asking about vaccines and about side effects, et cetera, I'll tell them, look, I've seen people who've taken a Z-Pack, which people take like water, and develop something called TEN, toxic epidermal necrolysis. Essentially, their skin comes off, right? So you've seen severe side effects from all kinds of medications. That's just the reality. But if you add up every single medical modality, bypass, any type of surgery, everything, you add them all together and look at the amount of lives they've saved, it still would not equal the number of lives saved by vaccines. So, I mean, you can quote me, vaccines are the single most important invention in the 20th century, or in modern medicine, really, in terms of saving lives, in terms of the number of lives saved. So there is nothing else out there that we have ever offered patients that have saved as many lives. They've transformed, the beginning of the 20th century when you had infectious disease as number one killer of children, and the high rates of infant mortality and the decreased life expectancy. It was all related to infectious diseases. So what changed that around, and what we developed into a Western world where things like heart disease and stroke would kill us and not infectious disease, is vaccination. So if you're talking about that number of people, of course you're going to have outliers. There's always going to be adverse effects. There's nothing we can do about that, quite frankly. But to spread rumors that and to continue perpetual myths of MMR vaccines causing autism, of all these, I don't need the measles vaccination. And we know what happened here, right, in Brooklyn, Rockland County in New York, in our areas in certain populations. We've seen that in American Samoa with measles as well, with what happens when people don't get vaccinated. And, make it real simple. We'll talk about something even simple like the flu shot. People will say, well, why do I need the flu shot? I've never gotten the flu shot. I've never gotten the flu. And quite frankly, it's because people out there are secure enough to get in the vaccine so that other people don't get this. So once you have that herd immunity where 70% or more of the population has the vaccine, then they're protected. So the problem always is that, what about the very old, the very young, those who can get vaccinated? And unfortunately, as physicians and as people in the healthcare industry, healthcare field, medical providers, et cetera, we all see what happens when people don't get vaccinated, when they get these diseases that are preventable. And it's devastating when you see young children, very old adults, immunocompromised people who couldn't get vaccines for legitimate purposes succumb to their illnesses because someone else made the very foolish decision not to get vaccinated. So that's my soapbox. You got what do you think?
I think people don't understand that if young children and old people can't get it, they're selfish about it. I don't think they understand that concept. So that's why I think that's the problem.
No, and there's a lot of misinformation, even like, well, it's just the pharmaceutical industry's way of making money. It's just a doctor's way of making money. I mean, it's insane. You make cents on the dollar when you administer a vaccine. This is the public health good that we're trying to do. And I mean, I will talk until I'm blue in the face about the importance of vaccines.
And I think it has to be a society issue, right? So just like this, vaccines are mandated in schools. I think they've done a good job, right? We don't see polio anymore. We don't see too much measles, mumps, and rubella. But I think there's a cost, for the society, and also, risk to people who aren't vaccinated. So sometimes, everyone has to get together and just decide for everyone else that this is what it should be because it benefits everyone else. So, there's the individual aspect where people don't want to get vaccinated, but they don't realize that lack of their vaccination can hurt other people. So, I think it's a big deal. And unfortunately, with the information age, some of those misconceptions can be perpetuated to the point where, people who need to be vaccinated won't get vaccinated.
Plus, if you look at these social media posts, they'll link to like these completely ridiculous websites, but people don't realize anyone can put a website out there with some kind of nonsensical study, et cetera. So I think people, your listeners, anyone out there should really pay attention to what their source, and we've talked about before, like, about Dr. Google, and Dr. Google will see you now. Anyone can Google anything, but oftentimes I'll have people say, well, look at this study, look at that study. Well, the study was an N of 6 people, it was from 1971. It doesn't make any sense, but people outside the medical profession won't always be able to necessarily understand that or dissect these studies. And so the problem is a lot of these sites are very slick. They've actually hired media people to do these type of things. So they look like they're legitimate sites, but they're really just dubious information, dubious studies, not rigorously, not case controlled studies. And that you can take any set of data and somehow manipulate the data to have interpretation, to suit someone's preconceived notions. So I think it's really important for people out there to understand where their medical information is coming from, and understanding that, try to view somewhere that doesn't have an agenda. And, at the end of the day, you have to make your own decision. But when it comes to public safety and the health of others, we have to take steps to ensure the safety of our populations.
Okay. Can I make a random point?
Please do.
It's so ironic that people will wait online for a freaking Popeye's chicken sandwich and
you can't have a show. You cannot have a show without talking about Popeyes.
Every show I've mentioned this, but just something like that, which will probably hurt them if they take enough of it in the long term, but they can't do the right thing by getting vaccinated. It's just, it's crazy to me.
How many patients you have come to your office?
You see the connection, though.
I see that.
Popeye's chicken sandwich and flu shots. Yes.
I would do both. Yeah. Get a flu shot and then get a free Popeye's chicken sandwich.
How many patients you have coming to your office with high blood pressure?
A lot.
After eating the Popeyes.
Yeah.
Or Chick-fil-A.
I think it's just a lifestyle.
Does one have more salt?
So, but the point is, we'll put crap into our bodies knowing it's crap, right? Knowing that it's proven to be crap without any hesitation. But when it comes to something that will help us and help the people around us, we'll believe some false information.
We'll insist on antibiotics for upper respiratory tract infections all day long.
Right.
And I can talk to you in my face of how it's disrupting your microbiome, how you're leading antibiotic resistance, but people just want their Z-Pak, they want their Levaquin, even though there's a multitude of side effects from all those medications, right? So Achilles tendon rupture, CNS toxicity, whatever. But you're right. Unfortunately, a lot of people have preconceived notions, and I just really wish that they could.
Hypocrisy is not consistent.
Hypocrisy is not consistent. That's a great line.
I'm going to tag.
That may be a hashtag.
Hashtag hypocrisy.
All right. I like that.
Sorry.
We'll include that when we post this on our Instagram.
We got a little soapboxy on that one, so apologize.
All right, let's talk a little bit about genetic testing. Right now, it's such a big thing. Tell us how you feel about genetic testing. Like, there's some issues where insurance doesn't really cover it, but it's really not all that expensive if you pay for it out of pocket, and how it could change medicine in the future. I
recently did it, and even though both my parents are from India, I was 64% Ukrainian, which is weird.
Wow.
Yeah.
He's lying.
So. This goes along what we call precision medicine, which is really the personalization of medicine. So I would say, again, caveat, neither one of us are experts in this, but
nor do we use it in our clinical practice to a certain extent.
But looking at the evolution, think about it. Looking at the evolution of medicine, this is 100% the future. So I deal a lot with sepsis patients. We know that there's certain genetic mutations that some people, we call them 94-year-old indestructible lady from a nursing home where they're 13th case of aspiration pneumonia and intubated, will do fine, extubated, and go back to a nursing home. You get a young kid, same pneumonia, strep pneumo, and then develops ARDS and dies. So there are clear genetic reasons of what affects people with sepsis. So similarly, I think from all aspects of medicine, there are genetic markers out there that we can hopefully identify and then subsequently use and even manipulate to treat patients in a more personalized way.
And we've seen the benefit of breast cancer with the BRCA genes, right? So,
which is a huge
which
thing,
is a
like
huge
Angelina
thing,
Jolie.
right?
Yeah,
Right.
she had the
So,
bilateral mastectomy and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, and even look at like even tumors. I mean, I was going to say oncology in general. I mean, that's a field now that they're looking not just at the site, right? So it's not no longer just breast, colon. It's really genetic markers that will help determine, can someone get immunotherapy? Can someone get a checkpoint inhibitor? Can someone get a monoclonal antibody? So all these new technologies and new medications and chemotherapeutics that are out there. So similarly, that's a big advance in oncology, but I think you're going to see that in a lot of other realms of medicine as well.
Yeah, that's for sure. And then
what about mental health?
well, personally,
my co-host, personally, we're suffering, I think, a little bit here, but
both. We want to hear about both.
Well, I think
Coleman does a lot of internal medicine, so I'll let him.
I do a lot of medicine, and I think mental health has always had what do you call it? What's the term I'm looking for? A bad connotation, right?
Sure.
So no one really wanted to talk about it.
Now it's the way
people will talk about diabetes and high blood pressure all day long. No one says, "Oh my God, you have diabetes." But the moment you say, "I have depression," or "I'm seeing a psychiatrist or a therapist,"
it's always had such a negative
there's a stigma,
right?
associated with that. We have to remove that.
But I think there's been so many advances in medical treatment for it, therapies for it, and just recognizing depression and how it relates to our overall health, right? So. A lot of times if you have chronic medical conditions, particularly like diabetes and high blood pressure and heart disease, sometimes depression goes along with that. And, treating those chronic diseases, depression can limit, the benefits of those. So, but I think just being cognizant and getting the word out that, it's okay to actually bring it up and talk to your healthcare provider, seek therapy for it, especially with the younger generation, right? So, it's not cool to be depressed. So, we don't wait till someone gets sick or does something, reckless or hurts somebody or hurts themselves until we really focus on it as a society. Yeah,
we've talked actually before, both of us, on the news, quite frankly, with increasing rates of depression and suicide among younger kids. And a lot of that's related to social media. A lot of that's related to cyberbullying. A lot of that's related to increased anxiety among kids, probably related to, a 14-year-old saying, did I get enough likes on my Instagram post or whatever. So we know that it's not just the older crowd. It's not just the middle-aged crowd. It permeates all levels, all populations, all age groups. And like Clinton said, it has been, but we need more work destigmatizing this. Like a lot of the work I do as an outpatient with HIV, and HIV for a long time has been stigmatized as a disease, and now slowly it is being transformed to a thought of a death sentence to a very livable disease, normal lifespan, just a chronic disease. So I think depression and mental health issues can't be thought outside the box. There's a whole mind-body connection, and we can't just treat one and not the other. So I mean, it sounds silly where the mind goes, the body follows. But I mean, it's true. I mean, and I think that a lot of studies have shown that. So I think we live in a society now with everything going on, politics aside, where it is very stressful. And I think, unfortunately, what has brought a lot of this to the forefront is now with the increasing rates of suicides and other issues with the younger population, people are finally waking up and saying, hey, we need to really focus on mental health issues, more importantly, just as much as we talk about heart disease or anything else, more somatic type of diseases.
Well, it is a medical issue. We forget it's a hormone imbalance, right? So I think just addressing that point, addresses the stigma instead of just saying, you're crazy or just it's a mood, get over it. There's a medical, physiologic imbalance that we need to address.
Right. So it's not like just sitting on the couch and talking. Although that can be helpful too, right? When I talk to you,
that could help.
It can. Sometimes I bring out my problems to Clinton. He's a very good therapist. He has a very soothing. He has a very soothing, very white type of voice.
Yes, yes, I do.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, but we agree. Mental health goes hand in hand with your physical health. You can't take care of one without the other. That's 100%.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. It's the same thing in medical school and residency. I'm gonna date myself, but I did my not fellowship internal medicine training
1970.
Can you get the hell out of here? It's before.
1970.
So I finished up right before they changed the 80-hour work weeks. I'll let your listener look up when that was, but that was still in the 2000s. But I'll tell you, there've been studies and reports in New England Journal and JAMA about like mental health well-being of residents, and I think it's great you talk about it, because I'll tell you, when I was training, no one talked about it. It was just like, do it and shut up and just don't complain, and just you go home whenever you're done your work, and if it's 120 hours, 130 hours, whatever. So I think they finally realized that that system is insane, and if you have physicians in training who are mentally out to lunch, then it doesn't benefit anybody. So I've seen firsthand how that stress and in some cases, some of my colleagues' depression can lead to terrible, not terrible, bad, thankfully, but just a bad outcomes. So we have to just really take that whole model and just throw it out the window and really say, look, it's not a problem to discuss mental health issues very openly, just like we would about blood pressure, cholesterol, right? No one even thinks twice. So we have to talk about these issues. And I mean, I don't know. I mean, you do more medicine than I do. I mean, do you do you screen patients do you say, hey, are you do?
Yeah. Part of primary care is doing appropriate screening for mental health disease and depression.
Right.
So, I think it's a huge topic that we unfortunately don't address as much as we address everything else, because everything else seems so black and white, right? You got diabetes because your A1C is 6.5. But depression is a real thing, and we all have been probably depressed in our life. I know.
Right. People are all affected differently.
It's like a normal thing.
Pinpoint. Yeah. Okay. And then I wanted to talk about, let's talk a little bit about kind of what you think our listeners would want to take away from this whole podcast episode. Like, what are things that they could do for their overall health? Like, let's say doing screenings or going to the doctor once a year. Like, what do you guys recommend?
Oh, that's a big topic.
I know. Important things at the very least.
Like, we share secret tips. So what are your tips on this topic?
I would say being informed, right? Like, there's no reason now why people can't be informed about their own health.
Ignorance is not an option.
Right. Their medical. There's so much information out there. It's not like in our day we had to go to the library and look up the encyclopedias and stuff. Now you can get the information that you need. Card
catalog in the library. Right. So no one knows what that is.
I think there's no excuse for not knowing your body, knowing what you need to be doing for your overall health, and being an advocate for yourself. Right?
That's a great point. I think you have to advocate for yourself. If you can't advocate for yourself, or you have to advocate for your family member, or someone advocate for you. So I think that's a super important, just discussing from a broad sense of view, just advocating for yourself, advocating for your family member, being informed, being educated. At the same time, don't put all your symptoms into Dr. Google and come out with the worst case scenario. So also understand that, as they say, your Google search does not equal a medical degree. So you have to take that information and know what to do with it, which is obviously seek out a physician that you trust, you can build a rapport with. And so, you don't want to do anything. You don't want to not do anything, but at the same time, you don't want to also jump to conclusions about your health as well. And a lot of those conclusions are because there's a lot of information out there. So it's like a double-edged sword. You can be informed, but sometimes people will say, well, I don't need to see my physician because I can just take this vitamin and my symptoms will go away. Or I can not take his advice because someone else on the internet on this very slick webpage said do this and that instead. So I think it's a double-edged sword. We live in information society, but we have to use it for its good, and then also realize its limitations as well.
Right.
For sure. So that's kind of the general theme. And otherwise, I'll just throw out there, hey, get your vaccinations. So it's nice and simple. So
yeah.
Nice.
Perfect answer.
Yeah. What about you, Clinton? I mean, eat Popeye's chicken, right? Or no?
Stay away from Popeye. No, I wouldn't say that because I'm going to get a cease and desist from them. But no, you're going to lose your MVP award.
I
think we take using common sense for granted, right? Just use common sense when it comes to your health, right? So vaping is an example. The Tide Pod Challenge is an example. We thought that was a cool idea, right?
That was insane.
Yeah. So I think, certain things, it should be cool to be healthy, right? So, it's cool to look good, listen to the right music, dress nice, but we really don't think of health as being cool. So I think part of our mission, and I'm sure you guys' mission is to make healthcare
a priority,
but also like the thing to do. It's not cool to be unhealthy. It's not cool to eat the wrong thing, to not exercise, to be sedentary. So I think, the new generation is picking up on what, on what they should be doing and
what the priority should
right.
be. Maybe it's not all about just X, Y, and Z. It's about living clean, enjoying your life, and then life is much more enjoyable when you're healthy, quite frankly. So,
and you have all your extremities you can see, right? You don't have syphilis.
Your extremities.
You don't need to be on dialysis.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
No dialysis.
No.
Hashtag no dialysis, no syphilis.
Great hashtags.
I have nenever heard those hashtags to be used in a
I'm not sure if you post anything on those, there'll be anyone else there, but
it'd be funny if there was.
That'll be the most confusing post ever.
Let's try.
So yeah, nutrition, fitness. So obviously you recommend people like work out at least 3 times a week.
Well, one thing I would say about nutrition, so I'm sure you guys have talked about it, and we've had, there's a million different diets, right? The keto diet, the South Beach diet, the Atkins diet. Intermittent fasting. Is that if you notice, that's why I look so good today. So yeah. I've been trying that. Yeah. I didn't know if you noticed that or not.
I did notice.
Okay, good. But in the end of the day, I would say neither of us are nutrition. We've talked to nutritionists on this show. We've talked to trainers on the show, trainers who, train elite athletes. And then the common theme is that, don't look for a magic pill or don't look for a magic diet that's going to, somehow solve all your problems. It really does come down to being balanced, both in your workouts as well as in your diet. I think most physicians would still say in the end of the day, the Mediterranean diet's the way to go for heart health, et cetera.
Yeah.
I mean, the more
amazing. The food
right. I mean, they call them blue centers. If you look at around the world where people lived the longest, it's usually areas like in Japan, the Mediterranean, southern coast of Italy, usually where people eat kind of the Mediterranean diet, which is seafood, less meat, more vegetables. That's kind of the theme. A lot of diets seem to come and go over the years in fads, but that's the one that's always stayed true. So I think, a lot of these things can be sensationalism, right? Like, oh, try this diet, try that diet. But I think if you just are smart and kind of follow the Mediterranean diet or something along those lines, you'll do well. I mean, I think most physicians out there would always advocate for that. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I think
by the way, I just recently went pescatarian. I tell everyone, including Coleman, he doesn't like to hear about it, but that's I feel better.
Listen, I went vegan for 2 weeks,
but that wasn't easy. See, that's the problem. If you go too extreme, then you're not gonna.
It's only extreme because you're on.
Then you're gonna go the opposite,
right? Yeah. So I would say, balance. That's what I'm saying. Balance, kind of more middle of the road.
Yeah, I think portion control is also key to everything.
It is. We all have our kryptonite. Like mine's pizza. I mean, you guys, Brooklyn, you know what's up. I mean, it's not easy for me to say no to pizza. That's my problem.
Once in a while, it's okay. It's just the people who every day wake up and the first thing they do is go to McDonald's, get hash browns, and they get a chicken sandwich. Because there are people who live like that. And honestly, because good food is expensive.
We have talked about this before. They call them food deserts, where you go to lower socioeconomic areas, inner cities, and you'll have a million fast food places, but no, we won't find a Whole Foods. You won't find a Trader Joe's. You won't find a place you can buy fresh fruits and vegetables. And unfortunately,
you mean liquor store, gun store,
and then lottery store,
exactly, and lottery,
yeah, and then a bodega, right? But all kidding aside, that is that's a great point you bring up because, and we've even asked guests, look, we can talk all day long about eating organic food, this and the other, but for a lot of people, it's out of their reach.
I'm going to disagree with you.
All right,
now.
Go ahead, disagree.
That was the argument, a few years ago. But now there's so much access to real comparably cheap, healthier food. Now we just got to be creative to do it. So we're lazy.
That requires work to make the food. I get what you're saying.
But I don't want to
going to the supermarket, spending $50 is cheaper than going to McDonald's for the whole week, spending $10.
No, but you don't want to shame people. Some people said, look, they have a family and they can feed a family of 4 for McDonald's for $12.
But I think you're also fighting the capitalist interest too, right? So there's a commercial on TV every time about this fast food, and it's all over the place. So I think. Society at some point there will be a breaking point where we'll know that eating healthy is actually the best thing to do, and it doesn't have to be expensive. It can be as equally cheap as the local.
I hope so.
Fast food restaurant.
But in the meantime, the idea of
but you can still wait online, for hours for a stupid chicken sandwich. Doesn't make sense.
Well, yeah, people don't.
You guys keep talking about this Popeye's chicken sandwich. I want to know if you guys tried it.
I was underwhelmed, but it's just frustrating to me people's priorities in life.
Oh yeah, I mean,
and then complain.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
People will buy $500 for
good.
shoes, but they won't spend a copay of $10. They don't want to see the doctor. Right?
Yeah.
That's we talked about before, switching priorities a little bit too.
That's so funny. We've actually spoken. I think we spoke about it on one of our episodes that people will go and get waste their last dollar in a Chanel bag when they don't have the money for it.
See a physician, right? So yeah.
Yeah, but then they won't go to the doctor.
How much was your Chanel man purse?
I got mine for free actually.
Oh,
yeah. I posed for some pictures in Chinatown, and I was able to.
Wow, look at that.
Hey, who knew?
Yeah.
Okay, so for our listeners, what's a resource, like a book or a podcast that you would recommend for them?
There's a really good one out there. It's called
Yours.
Daily Dose. Yes. How'd you know? And we're on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. You can also link to us through our, what's it called? Instagram? What is it?
That's what the kids use.
Instagram and Twitter.
Yeah, so I am at Clinton Coleman, MD. So that's CLENTONCOLEMAN, MD. And you're at what? At Brown Sugar?
I'm on brownsugar.com. No, I'm on Facebook. I'm on
That should be your name, Brown Sugar MD. That would be amazing.
But yeah, please, we encourage you guys to listen. We'll encourage our audience to listen to you guys. You guys are doing an amazing job, and we're happy to connect with you guys finally.
No, it's been a lot of fun, and more importantly, it's like I said, it's a great way of having physicians from all different aspects of their training regimens and along the continuum to kind of have common goals. And that's really, again, just to educate patients and make people healthy. That's what it comes down to. You just generally want people to be healthy and enjoy life.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming. We hope to obviously do more episodes in the future. You guys have a lot more experience in the medical field, so it's kind of refreshing to have people on here who could really talk about medicine in a fun way.
Well, for us, it's refreshing for me to talk to someone other than Coleman over here. So thank you very much.
Banter between one another is amazing. You guys are like brothers.
He's my brother from another mother. There's no doubt about it.
Exactly.
More ways than one.
OMG.
Thank you for having us. We had a great time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Samantha and I want to thank Dr. Coleman and Dr. Saggar for coming on to our show. Guys, make sure to check out their podcast. It's called Recommended Daily Dose. You can find it on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and we hope that you enjoy this episode. And for links to both of their Instagrams, make sure to check out the show notes. And we hope you have a great new year, and we will see you next year on The Secret Scope. If you like this episode, make sure to take 5 seconds to rate and review. Tell us your feedback. Also, don't forget to subscribe. Let us know what you want to hear on our next episode on our latest Instagram post. And make sure to follow us at The Secret Scope on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And for show notes and more details about this episode, make sure to check out www.thesecretscope.com. The content on our podcast website is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have read on this website or heard on this podcast.